April next year, I can officially say that I've been an estate agent for half my life. 34 in November, I started at 17. April 2008 was when I started. All went wrong from there, didn't it?
2008, was it your
Financial
fault?
crash, yeah. Post-COVID, of course, and we saw that escalation in prices again. You think it gets to a level and you think it's going to stop, and it does for probably 6 months to a year. We're in that period at the moment. It's a very stable market. Next year, real progression in prices again, and we'll probably be sat here in another 10, 15 years thinking, God, imagine when we said those 3-bed terraces were 400 grand and now they're 800.
I've rented out 3 beds recently for 2 grand. And then you look back 10 years ago and they're probably, what, 1,200?
Yeah, maybe less, maybe £1,000.
So you just see that period of time. So it's happening with house prices, it's happening with rental prices.
A chomp or a Fredo was 10p.
Yeah.
They're now 25 or 30p, depending on what corner store.
Well, I saw them the other day, £1.20.
For what, a chomp?
For a Freddo.
Oh my God. Welcome to the Investors Corner podcast. We've got a spotlight special this week, and we've got an agent that's been in the game for quite a long time. We're going to do a spotlight on how to look at an area from an investing point of view. So how to look at a particular town, what things should you be looking out for in a particular town? And we're going to use Bracknell as the spotlight because we've got Ryan Bloomfield with us, who's a business owner, estate agent that operates in the area. And we're going to use his speciality around Bracknell to try and give you an idea of the type of blueprint to think about with a particular area. So welcome to the pod, Ryan.
Thanks for the intro, Ian.
How you doing?
I'm very good. Yeah, very good. Just busy as always, but looking forward to this, catch up a bit and talk about Bracknell and obviously a little gem that it is.
When did you start your agency career?
Funny enough, I was thinking about this. So April next year, I can officially say that I've been an estate agent for half my life.
Oh, wow.
So I'm 34 in November. I started at 17. April 2008 was when I started. All went wrong from there, didn't it?
2008, was it your
Financial
fault?
crash, yeah. I wasn't.
That's not a good time to get in.
Yeah, start as a weekend sales assistant and 3 months in, like, oh yeah, market's turned. Can't swear on this.
You can drop it.
Do what you want.
All right, yeah. Market obviously took a tumble away, but it was it stood me in good stead because I learnt my trade through the 2008, 2009 market as we got into a bit better market after that. So yeah, it was a good time for investing actually back in the recession if you could get the finances, because I mean houses, it was like every other week. You remember working in Bracknell, it was like repossession. I think at one point where I was working, we had like 17 repos on at that point.
So crazy time.
Yeah, but fortunately we're in a much better market now.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
we are, but it's a good point because I do think in the property industry, people, brokers, estate agents, letting agents that have got into the industry in the tougher markets rather than the easy markets normally build better careers out of it. So let's just talk about that, and let's say, right, 2008, we're now 2024, just entered Q4 of 2024. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but thinking back to, like, what's a bog standard 1960s 3-bed worth in Bracknell back in 2008 after things had plummeted? You know, what sort of numbers were
we were talking about? What, 160, 170 maybe?
Yeah,
I mean, they're probably, really, really nice when you might get close to 200.
Yeah, and they were 195, 200 in 07, and then they dropped a good, like you say, 40 grand, I would say.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those investors that have bought a property, Andy, in and around that time, you think over that period of time how much they've doubled, right? They've over
doubled,
yeah.
Because you're looking, you can't pick up a 3-bed really. You're less than 350 at the moment, and some of them are pushing 4 plus in some instances. They've got a driveway, so yeah, like over double your money in 15 years. I mean, that's pretty incredible, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's strange because we used to talk about it in the agency days when we were employed rather than sort of running our own gig, and that you would say property prices pretty much double every 10 years. But if you went back 10, 12 years ago, you'd think, nah, can't double again.
Yeah.
Kind of have, haven't they?
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
And post-COVID, of course, and we saw that escalation in prices again. It's just, you think it gets to a level and you think it's going to stop, and it does for probably 6 months to a year. We're in that period at the moment. It's a very stable market.
Yeah.
But I can see next year real progression in prices again, and we'll probably be sat here in another 10, 15 years thinking, God, imagine when we said those 3-bed terraces were 400 grand and now they're 800.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, like, if you look at 2040, just like, let's call that kind of 15 years away, are we talking about 3-bed ex-council terraces with no parking and a garage in a block selling for 800 grand? Like, it's scary. But then we would have thought the same when they were 165, thinking, nah, they'd never go to 350, 400. So who knows? And that's a good topic of the conversation, because the investors that you're talking to, they obviously want to make some money monthly, but the vast majority of people who are invested in property, we'll call it slow pounds. They're looking to grow equity. They're looking to have a pension pot to kind of see the rewards of. There are some, like, where we had Milish come on and talk about his month-to-month goal that he had.
Yeah.
But in the main, that's what people are looking at. And it I guess it shines a light to say it's still an option. It's still possible.
Yeah, it's the capital appreciation that most investors look at, because their goal is for the long term, i.e. getting to the end of it, using it as a sort of pension later on in life and selling at that point. But, we talk about house prices doubling or more than doubling in the past 10, 12 years or whatever, but it's the same with rental prices as well. I mean, if you look at 3-bed houses in Bracknell, I've rented out 3 beds recently for $2,000 a month. And then you look back 10 years ago and they were probably, what, 1,200, 1,300 quid?
Maybe less, maybe $1,000.
So you just see that period of time. So it's happening with house prices. It's happening with rental prices. If anything, rental prices will probably increase more now because the supply is low, demand is still high. So we'll probably see more inflation happening on rental prices in this local area, specific area as well. So yeah, it's just a bit of a crazy time at the moment.
Well, if we think back, a chomp or a Fredo was 10p.
Yeah.
They're now 25 or 30p, depending on what corner store
Well, I saw them the other day, £1.20
for what, a chomp?
for a Freddo.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
£1.20.
That means that 3-bed could be $1 million.
Yeah, it's scary to think, isn't it? Scary to think.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way of the world, isn't it? Like, with the cost of everything going up, and house prices are always one of those things that just jumps up, and it shocks you, because we're talking of hundreds of thousands of pounds. We joke about a Freddo there going up, 1,000% in value. Yeah, but it's a quid. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
You go, I just won't buy that.
Yeah.
But when you're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds increases, it's suddenly people stand up and take a look at it, really.
Yeah.
I think that's why, always throughout my career, people looking to invest, it's always been the case where if you're looking to do it, don't worry about the number of it tomorrow or next week. If you've got your plan set, and as you said, longevity for most people, if you buy a property now, the chances are in 20 years' time, it's going to be worth at least double, if not more.
Yeah.
And that's your mortgage. If you pay your mortgage off, you've got a lump sum there. That's the way to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So with Bracknell as an area, then what are the kind of? I mean, there are loads of buy-to-lets in Bracknell now because of the fact that it's kind of that bit of a sandpit location compared to the neighbouring towns. It's been the cheaper of the neighbouring towns that it's sandwiched in by. What would be the kind of the 3 things that you often find investors are looking for when they buy properties? And everyone's unique, but in a kind of average sort of play. Why Bracknell?
I think Bracknell, I mean, we'll talk about location first. I mean, I literally come from a viewing this morning where a lady's travelled from West London to view a house with me, and took her 35 minutes by car to get to Bracknell. That's one of the key things. Great transport links. You're nestled between the M3 and M4. Ideal. Mm-hmm. What I really do think there's, I grew up in Bracknell, and I was always one of those people where I used to joke that I escaped the clutches of Bracknell and left. But now, actually, after Lexicon was built and the town centre regeneration, it suddenly is actually quite a nice place to be. Yeah. And people are looking, a lot of buyers from West London, people from larger towns, Maidenhead, Reading, thinking, actually, Bracknell's not that bad. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper than where I'm looking. So that's bringing people to it as well. But I do think also just, I know you're big into your running in, but the greenery around as well. Like, you get the best of both worlds in Bracknell. You're close to everything, but you've got forests around you. There's loads of parks, really good family area, good quality brick-built houses, most of them built in the 60s and 70s. It's just, everything seems to be perfect. And I think that's those accumulation of things kind of attract people into the area.
It's a good area, isn't it? Because you can appeal to 2 different types of demographics. You can appeal to your professional people within Bracknell, because you've got some big players headquarters in Bracknell, and then you've got Reading up the road where you've got other big players as well. So you've got that professional sort of outlook on the area. Then you've got your family areas with the forests, with the good schools, with the, you know, and these new build estates that are going up as well, that have got schools already in the estates and they're surrounded by greenery. So as an investor, it's, well, which route do you want to go down? I can go down the professional route where I want to get professional couples. I can go down the family route and look for those bigger properties to appeal to families. So it just feels to me that, you know, Bracknell is just the best of both worlds, really, as an investor on who you're trying to appeal to. And with Bracknell as well, I mean, the amount of housing that's sort of going to come into play as well around Bracknell and Wokingham, you know, these newer build estates. Just behind me, planning's been granted to put, I think it was 2,000 or 3,000 homes, and that's in between Jennets Park and Montague Park. So you can imagine that, you know, when those are starting to be built and the people that come in here, it's just going to influx.
These major towns are merging, aren't they? You know, Bracknell and Wokingham is pretty much merged now. You look at how Warfield's spanning out towards Maidenhead, and you can already connect Bracknell to Ascot. In fact, some people that live in Bracknell say they're Ascot borders. You know, like it is connected now, isn't it? In that way, and I just think it's an interesting point on the family dynamic. You know, the proper brick built houses, good sized properties, but also you got Swinley Forest, you got that nature area. I think that is now an important thing for people where it maybe wasn't before lockdown.
I think people take it for granted. I did growing up spend quite a lot of time in Swinley when I was out like mountain biking as a kid, which was always great fun for me, but never really, thought of it as I live in Bracknell and it's Swinley Forest, it's amazing. But now actually it's a really nice place to be. As you said, best of both worlds. You work hard all week, you've got the weekend to enjoy what Bracknell has to offer. It's brilliant.
What are you finding with speaking to the tenants on the other side of it? That's sort of looking at it from an investable kind of area, but from a tenant point of view, I mean, you list a $2,000 3-bed terrace and you've got 50 tenants within 72 hours that want to rent it. Why do they want to rent it? What are they doing in Bracknell?
So it's the location, it's the schools, it's the community sort of feeling around Bracknell, why they want to come in. You know, you've got the Lexicon, you've got the train station, you've got the transport links, you're close to the M4, so they have everything around. I mean, it's the green spaces as well, like Swinley Forest and others as well. You know, you've got gyms, you've got supermarkets, you've got everything. So they want to come in because they've heard great things, and they know from a living perspective that they'll have a good quality of life because they have everything around them, and it's convenience to them.
And you mentioned about the sort of 60s properties, 70s properties. Bracknell's very much split in three now, really. It used to be, we used to split in two, but you've got the kind of 90s stuff, you know, your Forest Parks, your Martin's Herons, that aspect of it. Bit more modern. They're not ex-council. Then you've got the 60s, 70s stuff, old Bracknell, if you like, the big estates where you've got loads of 3 beds.
Bracknell.
Yeah, OG Bracknell, 2 beds on the end. If we're just looking at something like where an investor goes, do you know what, I just want a nice 1990s 2-bedroom terrace, parking on the front or behind, you know, it's not big. We're probably talking from a rental for a 2-bed in Forest Park, 1,400 or something like that, are we now?
More than that, about 16.
Wow, there you go. So that's changed.
Easy.
Yeah. What are we looking like for one of those price-wise?
Again, varying, but realistically, a 2-bed, you're going to fall between 325 on an average condition. 350 is probably fair. If there's something very special, someone may pay 365, 370 for one. But yeah, that's the sort of numbers you're looking at. And as you said, they're not big houses, those ones. People do like them though.
Yeah, they're great first homes.
Yeah,
I mean, I bought one as my first home. It's perfect. You outgrow it in 5 or 6 years, depending on whether you have kids there or not.
But from an investor's point of view as well, those are your ideal properties in this area, because as soon as they come on the market, they're gone, and you're getting the best possible price because they're the most in-demand property. 2 beds, like 2-bed houses. As soon as they come on, they're gone. So if you can get one of those as an investor, that would be the ideal property for me in this area, because I know that it's gonna be rented out. Occupancy rate, I'm going to have no void period on it whatsoever, because I just know that the demand's there. And like I said, I've rented out 2 beds around that area, 1,600. There was one that went on Gennett's Park a couple of weeks ago, 1,800, 2-bed house. And that just shows the demand that when they come up, people just pay whatever for them because that's the property that they need to get.
Yeah. What's from a buyer point of view at the moment, Ryan? What are the buyers looking for? Where's the big in demand just in terms of residential sales at the moment for properties? Does it correlate? Is it different?
No, it follows a similar trend, to be honest with you. Anything houses wise, anything from 350 to 450, we know we put that on the market, that's sold in 2 weeks realistically. Even the 550 market's okay. We have found this year that anything sort of 6+ has probably been struggling a little bit. Not quite sure why. And the higher end market, the top end of Bracknell market, which is the 800-900 market, you're really struggling, to be honest with you, in many aspects. But overall, that core Bracknell market, 350 to 500, is really, really promising at the moment. Yeah. And again, we have lots of buyers looking constantly, not just investors, but residential. They're selling like hotcakes. We just can't get enough of them on the market, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's the same, across most areas from all of the stuff that I'm seeing online and articles and stuff is that, that bracket that you were just talking about, up to 550 seems to be selling well, but anything above that is taking a longer process. But why do you think that is? Do you think that's just...
I know why.
Go on.
I know exactly why. And it's all back to that stamp duty tax holiday, because the prices for the 4 beds where people came 3 years earlier to make the move to save the 15 grand on tax, it pushed the 4-bed prices up to a point where it was almost, you felt a bit awkward agreeing the sale, but you knew you had 4 or 5 other buyers that also wanted to buy it. You're like, wow, that is a lot of money. It pushed the demand level to a point where it was a little bit of a fake bubble because of that stamp duty tax. And I think we're probably still going to see a bit of fallout of that in 2025. And then 2026, I think it will be back to kind of normal level. And in fact, one of the avocado partners put a video up for High Wycombe that showed the average house price over 12 months in High Wycombe for a 3-bed had gone up by, I think it was £36,000. But the average 4-bed price had gone down by £28,000. And I think that's
so the gap's got a lot closer.
Yeah, it paints the picture.
Yeah, so actually people wanting to upsize as well from those houses where they're going to sell really quickly, suddenly they're not looking at that 600, 650 market because it's not getting any better for them in terms of the pricing.
The prices on like a 750 house in 2020, at the end of 2021, for example, start of 2022, that 750 house was 625 like 9 months before. And that's just because the government threw that 15 grand tax holiday in there and everyone just went bonkers. But it wasn't ever worth 750. It was worth 680. And it just kind of took that little bit of time to kind of level it out. So it makes sense that that's the market that's struggling a little bit. But those people also won't be moving. Yeah. So there's going to be...
Yeah. Fortunately for myself and my business partner, probably 60% of Bracknell is 350 to 500. So we're okay. Yeah. Fine for us. We're good at the moment.
What about these, the newer builds that are going up, the newer blocks that are going up and stuff like that? How are you seeing the developers selling the newer blocks, the town centre stuff, the big ones that they're trying to put out? Because some of the prices for those look crazy. I mean, I drove past the cinema, the old cinema, and they've got some sort of block of flats going up there. There's been loads pop up there. Are they all straight residential? Are they housing association? Are they built to rent?
It's a real mix, to be honest with you. I mean, for the residential side, a lot of people paid, like when you buy a new build, you do pay a bit of a premium for it, for the luxury of it, and obviously everything brand new. And I think when a lot of those flats around the town centre were built, and we won't get into on this pod, but with the lease issues that are now coming up, ground rents and deed of variations having to be brought in for mortgage providers, they've suddenly got very tricky to sell. And lots of people, those 1-bed flats where they paid 215, 220 for them, and now they're worth 200, 205. That we're seeing that an awful lot. But they're still building loads more apartments. I've heard through the grapevine there's another potentially 300 flats being built in Gennett's Park, just behind the pub or Peacock Farm. So planning's just been going in for that, which is
because that is land there, isn't it? Just behind.
Yeah.
It's just been derelict since they built the previous.
Yeah.
What was supposed to be the end of Genesis Park, but now more. But they're still building more flats. And there's clearly a demand for them, but people paying premiums for them, whether that be investment. I mean, I've always throughout my career said to any investors I dealt with, but I would always focus on freehold personally.
Yeah.
I'm not to say there's nothing wrong with the structure of a leasehold property, but I just think it opens up more cans of worms than you actually need.
Mm-hmm.
You're better off spending an extra $100,000 and buying a nice freehold property that you're safe with, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But still lots being built, so clearly there's the demand there, which it's an interesting time.
Yeah. What from a tenant point of view, you mentioned about the 2 beds being the most in demand, and is that like new couples moving in together?
Yeah.
Is it people that have come in from London over here? All of the above?
Yes, I mean, it's not a lot of people coming in from London. It's just couples that are, been together for a year and now it's time to move in with each other, and or they've been together for a couple of years and looking to start a family together, so need to upsize slightly. They don't want anything too big for them because they don't need it. And rather pay a lesser rent to get something that they actually need, rather than overpay for something that they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that's really the core of what I'm finding the conversations that I'm having is it's either I want to start a family, or we're moving in together, or we currently live in a flat, we need more space, so we're going into a house.
Yeah.
You do get a few people coming in from London. But the people that I've been speaking to recently, the ones that are moving out from London, are looking in more Maidenhead, sort of Windsor, that around that sort of area, when they actually look into it properly, and don't come out potentially this far. But I've got a couple that have moved from London recently that I've rented a property to, and they've now started working from home. Their employers said, you can work at home 4 days of the week, come into the office 1 day a week. So they can look further out now. Because they only need to go to the office once a week. So mixture, but it tends to be the people that want to start a family or that are just moving in together that want that property.
Are you selling many properties now, Ryan, where you're seeing a lot of the garden home offices? Because I see those sort of popping up quite a lot, but I don't know whether they come through into the resale. And with those kind of work from home garden home offices, some of them are like really expensive, really good. Yeah. Does that have an impact on the valuation? And then I'll ask the same question to you. If you had one come on the market, would you increase the rent as a result of it? So
I think it's a difficult one with sale. I mean, it would help. What I've often find, being completely honest, if people have spent a few £1,000s on a good quality home office setup, normally, and it's not an exact rule, but 9 times out of 10, their house is absolutely perfect anyway. So it kind of naturally goes up in value anyway, but I wouldn't say it's directly correlates with the fact they've got a home office. Certainly makes it more saleable. Yeah. But I wouldn't say, my opinion is it massively increases the price.
Yeah. It's hard to give it a valuation increase. Definitely a surveyor wouldn't mark it up, or a mortgage valuation wouldn't. But it has to have an extra appeal to it. Like
if someone needs a 3-bed house, they've got 2 kids, and they need a work from home office, and there's no second reception room, it's ideal for them, isn't it? Yeah. But if someone doesn't,
they would pay more for that as well.
It would work for them, but that's just for them individually.
Yeah.
And the other 9 or 10 people that viewed it, it might not have the same effect.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't price a property higher because of home and office. Maybe add a bit on, but as I said, normally it'd be higher price anyway because generally the house would be better quality. So it's difficult to kind of pinpoint how much value it adds.
It'd be interesting to see how that unfolds over the next 5 or 6
It's a very
years.
sit on the fence answer, that wasn't it?
Yeah. It's kind of like you're saying, yes, it does, but I wouldn't guarantee it. It's kind of it's difficult. It depends on the buyer, obviously. What about from your point of view? If you've got a property, a 3-bed, it's got the home garden office, cabling, it's got Wi-Fi out there.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's definitely
add value.
Yeah, it's definitely a premium feature of for a rental property. I mean, I'll give you an example. I had a property in Caversham that I rented out. It was a 3-bed detached property. Lovely garden area. It had a lovely setup at the back where you've got your wooden floor and you've got your TV links in there. You've got the Wi-Fi in there. It was a proper office setup. Other 3 beds in the area, similar condition inside. Went for around 1,900. I managed to get 2,200 for this one just because it had that office area at the back.
They were prepared to pay it.
£300 more a month because they knew that if they've got that proper office set up at home, they potentially don't need to pay for a Regis office or something like that, where they need that quiet time away from the family because they do important work, where they have to travel to a Regis office anyway. So they're just paid more, have the proper setup at home, and happy to pay 300 quid more a month. So yeah, it's definitely a premium feature for a rental property.
So yeah, I think for a landlord then, it's something to definitely consider on that basis, especially those 2 beds, like the Forest Park 2 beds, 1 reception room, small kitchen, no downstairs toilet more often than not, 2 double bedrooms, but they've often got relatively long gardens. So, you know, if you had the Costco account through your business, this is not tax advice, or you had a contact, you know, that could put them up relatively cheap, and it's a long-term asset for you, that might be a good way to get an extra £150-200 by having a garden office, you know, potentially. And it sounds like you're not going to pay extra if you buy one with it through the residential sales, although you may be in a bit more of a bidding fight with first-time buyers and work from home type buyers as well.
Yeah.
What other tips or reasons to buy in Bracknell would you give? Obviously, you've got 2 train stations.
2 train stations, Transport links, obviously we covered all that off. I just think, we mentioned about the quality of the house as well. I've spent quite a lot of my career working in Reading, for example, and you've got a lot of Victorian properties there that have their issues, with damp and all the sort of things that come in. For a rent, I mean, they're great little rentals, but they have a natural, you have to have money aside because you know something's going to come up.
Yeah.
I think with Bracknell, because they're solid brick-built houses in the 60s and 70s, structurally they are sound on most aspects. There might be a bit of asbestos somewhere. There might be a bit of subsidence at the back garden, whatever it may be, but nothing. Subsidence is obviously a major issue, but nothing major to worry about. So once it's decorated nice, you kind of, in the boiler's good, electric's good, you're kind of safe for 5 to 10 years in terms of just letting it out. You might need lick of paint or new carpets occasionally between tenancies, but very rarely you're going to have to spend fortunes out on the house.
Yeah.
I think that's what attracts people. It's just that continuity and quality of build, because you don't find houses like that anymore.
No.
And when we talk about, spotlighting on towns and looking at where the council are investing money, the lexicon, when it popped up, it did totally change the whole of the Bracknell sort of feel. It did totally change it, because Princess Square was a bit sort of dead. There were kids hanging around on the front. There wasn't much going on in the shops, but the lexicon has really brought that life to Bracknell. And I used to say if I wanted to go out for a nice bit of lunch on a Saturday on my weekend off with the missus or with the kids or something, you used to go to Reading, whereas now you'd prefer to go, around the corner to Bracknell. So it has pulled in that kind of different sort of feel about it as well. And I think for investors, I know we've mentioned it on this podcast, if the council's investing in the area, then go for it. If it's got the Waitrose, go for it. And Bracknell's had that investment. It's got the Waitrose, it's got the M&S. It's got quite a lot of doctors' surgeries around. It's got a lot of primary schools for you to look through, a load of secondary schools for you to look through. It's got the Swinley Forest, acres and acres of sort of nature as well to play with. Double train stations on the Waterloo link, M3, M4. It is a perfect investor's spot in the south of England, outside of London, for someone that wants a kind of safe investment, I would say, really.
Totally agree with everything that you just said there. And obviously we talked about it as well in this one, the prices as well. That's, people invest in property not because they want to make money. That's ultimately the goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And for future planning, can't really say there's any better places that I know of within the local area that gives everything that you want for a good quality tenant for 10, 15, 20 years, whilst they're still investing in the area. It's only going to improve. So seems like it's the perfect time to buy in Bracknell.
And how has, over the course of 2024, just talking market sort of chat here, how have you seen buyer registration? How have you seen ratios of properties selling throughout 2024? Because we're 9 months in now, and it's quite a different year throughout. What's your kind of sort of thoughts on the market being for 2024?
It's a really interesting point, and I've said this to a lot of people that I come across in terms of estate agency land. But if you look back post-COVID, you look at the years as straight 12 months. Like 2022 was a straight 12 month. There was no drop off in the market.
Yeah.
2023, obviously artificially created by high mortgage rates, but there was a little bit of a drop off, but no seasonal market. 2024, I feel, is the first year we're back to pre-COVID times in terms of a seasonal market. Slow build up in January, February, March, April, pretty busy. May, bonkers for sales. August, honestly, we were so quiet. Don't get me wrong, we were quite happy with that because we had houses to sell. And we, took a few holidays and chilled for a bit. And then literally as soon as September the 1st came, it was like turning on the tap. And buyers just everywhere. I think we had like 39 offers on properties last month, which is right up. I think it was that we were the top offer, people getting offers in the company, in the avocado group last month, which is, obviously we're a big market, but that's pretty good. And we're seeing that. But we're already preempting that we know November, December is going to get quiet. So in answer to your question, we've gone back to a normal marketplace.
Yep.
Where it's good to get your house on the market in spring, sell in May to move in the summer holidays.
Yeah.
Or you sell in September to move for Christmas. That's the keys, really.
It's funny you say that because that August time is obviously school holidays. Everyone goes away with their kids. You're sitting by the pool, if you do go away, sitting by the pool, cocktail in hand. And then you're talking about, right, what are we going to do next year then? What are we going to do next year? And I was talking to the missus about, first thing I said is, I'm a bit bored at my house now. So I think I want to
Such
move.
an estate agency thing to say.
I think I want to move. I think we need to upsize. We need to get that 4th bedroom. And we don't actually need to move. This is just something that I'm having a conversation about. And she was like, yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, I think it's time to move. So it's like those moments where you're away and chilling out and all of that, and then you come back in September. And when you said September, it's like turning the taps on. It was like go go go.
Yeah,
it's like I can imagine people all having the same conversation, thinking, right, let's just get on with it now.
Yeah, and I think you find people that put the house on the market in September would have had those same thoughts you had probably back at Easter.
Yeah,
and they wait. Oh, after the summer we'll go.
Yeah.
And everyone that I guarantee your house will be on the market in March.
Yeah, probably
for the spring market. Well, they say, I know a good estate agent.
They do say it's normally thought it's an idea 9 months before it comes into reality, and there you go. We'll see in the next 9 months whether you move. No, interesting points, and I think it's a very interesting market in Bracknell. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was what's been released this week, which was this first-time buyer mortgage from Nationwide, 6 times income, 5% deposit, which feels like it's very much targeted to tenants to become first-time buyers. Yeah. And I don't know whether there will be a lot of tenants and first-time buyers that are aware of it, but 6 times income, is for your average kind of Joe that's earning 35 grand a year, for example. That's a lot of mortgage all of a sudden they can get that they couldn't have got before.
Yeah, but the thing with that is, the way that I look at it is that if they're borrowing that amount of money and they're only putting a 5% deposit down the house, their monthly payments must be pretty high.
Oh, they will be, yeah. I would imagine they'll be as high as the rent.
Yeah, so it's just like, well, can you actually afford to do that on a salary like that? Do you know what I mean? As in, if you do rentals, rentals might be a bit less. You might find a decent property out there for a good price. You haven't got to worry about any of the maintenance stuff or the insurances for the house or anything like that. So again, if you were renting, it still potentially may work out cheaper than owning the property, especially if you're just putting down a 5% deposit, potentially borrowing up to 6 times your salary. So it's still, to me, it's a big, hefty sort of buy-in for that scenario. Obviously, if you had a bigger deposit, then fine. But it's when you do small deposits, borrowing a lot of money.
I think the problem for people in that scenario is when you're buying your first home, like you all expect to be there for 4 or 5 years, then you probably want to upsize. But things happen. Yeah. Splits with partners, loss of job, whatever it may be. In 2 years' time, you might need to sell. And suddenly, if you're, you almost not got any equity left in the property, the 5% you put in now gone, it can cause problems for people. Yeah. So it's an interesting one. I don't know whether they're just trying to get people out of rented to kind of loosen that demand, but it's just kind of kicking the can down the road. You're kind of shifting one problem to another.
It'd be interesting to see what the uptake is over the coming months of it and how many people actually take out those mortgages compared to, tenants out there or first time buyers or whatever it is. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I think it's I don't know. For me, I don't think a lot of people will
because we had the 1% deposit stuff, didn't we? That sort of was spoken about, and nothing really happened with that. It feels like lenders are trying to find a way to capitalise on this crazy, silly high rental demand and pull those tenants into first-time buyer land. This particular product, and I'm not a mortgage advisor, so if I've got this wrong, don't shoot me, but I believe the two different rates are for a 5-year fixed and a 10-year fixed. So they're looking long term. They're saying, if you're going to potentially, because of the deposit of 5%, we're going to lock in with you for 5 years. We're going to go on a 5-year journey, and we're going to almost guarantee that your equity will be higher in 5 years, which, as we spoke about at the start,
it should be. But
you've got to be able to afford it. So I'd imagine it'd be quite stringent on affordability. But we'll see. We'll see how it unfolds.
Just one more thing on Bracknell. So what type? We were talking off camera about the types of properties that are becoming available and how to spot a good deal and how to find a good deal.
Yeah.
What are you seeing at the moment in the current market? You're seeing a lot of family homes that have now come to an end and they're looking for a quick sale. You're seeing a lot of probate properties. What are you seeing deal wise?
I was thinking, because we're dealing with a lot of probate, or exactly that, where a property's been in the family for 50, 60 years, and now they're suddenly, I think it's just the time frame in terms of when Bracknell was built. Most people moved here 60s, 70s, maybe 80s, and they've been in their houses for 30, 40, 50 years. And then now, sadly, they might have passed away or they've gone into a home or whatever it may be, and the family needs the selling. A lot of these houses will be in disrepair, and they need not huge amounts. And I go back to the structure of the buildings, they're sound. All they need is kitchen, but kitchen, bathroom, heating, electrics, windows, and decorating. If someone knows what they're doing, you could refurb that quite easily for 40 to 50 grand. And if you're buying that quite far below market value because of the condition and because of it putting people off, you're already going to be 25, 30 grand in profit before you even start letting it or potentially sell it on. So spotting those is another situation. The best thing you can do is have a really good relationship with your estate agent, ultimately. And I do, obviously, I'm going to toot the horn for self-employed models, because the way we work is we have a list of buyers that we know we can go to, and we'll speak to them direct before they even go anywhere near the marketplace. If it goes on Rightmove, then you're probably too late to buy it.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Or there's something really wrong with it.
You can often spot those types of properties as well, whether they're going to be available next month or next year. But you can spot a lot of those types of properties, whether they've had that long-term person in there, just based on whether they've had the driveway done or not. And that's a little gold.
Curtains permanently closed with a skip out the front. That's coming on the market next 3 months, guarantee it. And there's some. I'm not saying to put a card through the door. A little say, "Call me if you sell."
But speak to Ryan and Sanjay.
Speak to Ryan and Sanjay. We'll know about them. But no, we just completed on one for one of our investors that we work with, literally last week, and exactly that situation. Been in the family 60 years, needed a full repair, had potential to extend. Driveway could easily increase the value overnight, and got a fantastic deal. So, but the sellers were happy. It's not that we're undercutting; they're happy with the value and a good quality buyer. And we're just matching, people together, people with property. Yeah. So good way to look at it.
Well, maybe that's a theme, unfortunately, but just the way generational life kind of works, that there will be a lot of probates, and it makes a lot of sense because of the overflow of London, because of how the kind of area was grown and developed. That population is now aging significantly. My grandparents were those people. They've both passed away now, so it's very evident that that's going to be the case. I
think we probably, it sounds a long time, but I think we probably only got maybe 5 or 10 years while it's in this, I want to call it a rich vein of form, because it's sad, but whilst this opportunities are out, the next 5 years or so, there'll be a lot more. And then I think it's going to slowly kind of decrease as people have been here longer, and
first-time buyers have moved into them, refed them, done them back up, etc.
Exactly. Be less opportunities.
Great points, really good points. And I think if someone wants to talk to you or Sanjay about obviously investing in Bracknell and have a chat with you, and you do a lot of stuff where deals are done off market or through the database. So don't just sit and wait around on Rightmove. Like you said, work with a good self-employed estate agent that's going to try and source the properties for you. And then obviously, between yourself and Andy, we can help with getting the properties managed as well. So reach out. Big on socials, Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, at Ryan Assange on Insta, and then just Ryan Assange Avocado Partners on Facebook. Will come up. Just type in Ryan Assange. There's not too many of us around, so we'll come up pretty easily. Just ping us a DM. We're literally all over it. So happy to chat to anyone, offer advice, buying properties, want some more information. Just let us know. We're happy to help.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate the invite, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.